Chapter 1740. At this time, in Gong Sun Shue's room, Cao Cao first observed her expression before taking her pulse. She had already noticed that there was something wrong with Gong Sun Shue's body. She originally wanted to help her for Qingyan's sake, but that day when the assassin came, Gong Sun Shue's identity was exposed. She thought that Gong Sun Shui was Qingyan's enemy, so she didn't mention it again. She didn't expect that after so many twists and turns, this person still ended up in her hands. If I'm not wrong, you've been infected with the ring goo. This kind of goo likes to hide in the human body and won't kill immediately. The incubation period is usually 20 years, and it survives by eroding the human body. Now that the ring goo has matured as the host, Miss Gong Sun Shue's body is exhausted. In less than a month, the ring goo will act up. Once it acts up, the host will quickly decline, and within 2 hours, her blood will dry up and she will die. Cao Cao withdrew her hand and explained to everyone. Then do you have a way? Xiao stared at her as if looking at a life-saving straw. Although the others didn't speak, they also looked at Cao Cao expectantly. Cao Cao crossed her arms and raised a confident smile. My title of little which is not undeserved. I don't care about these evil things at all. Xiao was overjoyed. At this time he saw Cao Cao's eyes fall on him. She slightly raised her chin and said, "Get ready, tomorrow I'll draw the goo to expel the poison." Xiao quickly nodded. "If you need anything, just tell me." After that he walked to the bedside, squatted down and stroked Gong Sun Shue's pale face. His eyes were full of excitement and joy. "Ice beauty, I can take you to see thousands of rivers and mountains in the future." Cao Cao looked at the two people cuddling together and sighed. Another pair of idiots. After leaving the room, she looked around and didn't see the person who usually clung to her. She thought, where did this person go? Cao Cao glanced at Chu Qingyan, who was waiting for her at the door, and immediately strode over. "Why are you here? Didn't your big ice cube watch you? It's been so many months, you should take care of the baby and don't run around." Before Chu Qingyan could say anything, she didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Proper walking is good for the baby. You're a doctor, why are you more nervous than a layman like me? I'm concerned about you. Tao stuck out her tongue, then took over Jasper's position and walked forward. I know you care about me. I appreciate it. Chu Qingyan patted the back of her hand and asked, where did you go the last time you left North Korea? Why isn't there any news? S's sake of the devils is the devils the devils is ants this. Tao's they as seeing this, Cao giggled. You didn't expect it, did you? He can do this for others. As she spoke, there was a trace of sweetness in her expression. I thought I would never see him turn back to me in this lifetime. Sincerity can move metal and stone. Cao, I'm happy for you, but... Chu Qingyan's eyes turned and she smiled slyly. Do you still not plan on forgiving him? Cao tilted her head and smiled mischievously. That still depends on his performance. I have the looks and medical skills. The Tao family has a daughter that thousands of families want. How can I let him have it so easily? Chu Qingyan pinched her nose and said with a smile. Good, you have ambition. Cao nodded seriously. Of course. The two walked as they chatted about what had happened in the past half-year. When they reached the entrance of a courtyard, they saw a beautiful figure waiting there. Greetings to little Princess Consort. Water Spirit bowed towards Chu Qingyan, and then bowed towards Cao. Miss Tao. Chu Qingyan said, what are you waiting here for? This subordinate wants to find Miss Tao to ask about Fengling's treatment, Water Spirit replied. Chu Qingyan nodded. At this time, Xiao Su coincidentally sent people to find her. She left two people behind and left first. After they left, Xue Ling turned to Cao in front of her. Although she wasn't very old, Xue Ling didn't dare treat her lightly, so she asked in a sincere tone. Today, Sister Tao said that to cure Fengling's illness, there needs to be a sacrifice. May I ask what kind of sacrifice Sister Tao is referring to? Fengling thought that she did not notice, but how could she not notice this? She did not dare to be negligent about his illness at all. Cao looked at her with a troubled expression. Water Spirit saw this and immediately said, Miss Tao, please speak. I can bear it. Listening to her words, Cao told her the truth. Young Master Feng Ling's illness isn't difficult to cure. His blood is filled with highly toxic toxins, so as long as we release his blood and inject new blood into him, the toxins in his body can be cleansed. This is our Devil Valley's unique blood replacement technique, but the blood used must be from a living person. Otherwise it won't have any effect. Sister Xueling, do you understand what I mean? Water Spirit stilled, but she did not hesitate and said directly, "Take my blood." Tao Tao narrowed her eyes. "Are you sure?" Water Spirit nodded heavily. "I'm sure." "All right, the blood exchange will be carried out tomorrow. Rest well today," Tao Tao instructed. Water Spirit smiled and nodded. Just as Tao Tao was about to turn, she called out to her. "Is there anything else?" Tao Tao was puzzled. Water Spirit said in a sincere tone, "Please don't tell him." If he knew that it was a life for a life, he probably would not agree. Tao Tao raised her eyebrows and looked at her strangely. "You don't think it's a life for a life, do you?" Water Spirit was startled. "Isn't it?" Tao Tao chuckled. "If that's the case, then why save him?" Water Spirit was confused. Then, "Tomorrow we will exchange a part of the blood. After that, we will exchange it once every half a month. After 3 exchanges, he will be completely cured." After Tao Tao finished speaking, she winked at the astonished Water Spirit and said, "I heard that you two have been separated for 10 years and finally reunited. How can I do something like breaking up a pair of lovebirds? So don't worry, I will not let you two be separated by life and death." Ming Yan's face was filled with gratitude. "Miss Tao, if Feng Ling can be cured, we will never forget it." "No need. This is what I owe your little princess. Go and rest well. There is a big battle tomorrow." Tao Tao rubbed her nose a little embarrassedly. She had studied medicine for so many years and mostly teased people. She rarely took the initiative to save people. She was not used to being grateful to others. Water Spirit thanked her again and again before turning to leave. "I didn't expect my little demoness to be so kind." A teasing voice came from behind the rockery. Tao Tao restrained the expression on her face and rolled her eyes at the person. "I didn't expect the palace master to like eavesdropping." A peerlessly handsome face flashed from behind the white jade. It was Higashio Motetsu without a doubt. He walked in front of her, his eyes innocent. "I just happened to pass by. Seeing that you were so engrossed in your conversation, I didn't want to disturb you." Tao Tao rolled her eyes. "I'll be damned if I believe you. Didn't you just say that you won't break up a pair of lovebirds? Is there a problem?" She glanced at him. Higashio Motetsu said in all seriousness, "Of course there is a problem. Isn't that what you are doing right now?" Tao Tao was stunned. "Who did I hit?" "Me and you." Tao Tao was instantly choked. This person was getting better and better at flirting. Higashio Motetsu took advantage of her daze to step forward and hug her. He said in a low voice, "Tao Tao, let's make up." Chapter 1741. Time flew by, and half a year passed just like that. However, in this period of time, happy events happened one after another. Chu Qingyan gave birth to a pair of twins 4 months ago. The son's nickname was Ping'an, and the daughter's nickname was Ku Xian. Sima Jun gave birth to a daughter 3 months ago. Her nickname was Naughty. Ji Linyang was overjoyed. Pang Jijing gave birth to a chubby boy a month ago. His nickname was Lucky. Lin Fingyi and Hua Xiao got married on the day of the peach blossoms. News came from North Korea that Xining was pregnant. Under Tao Tao's treatment, Feng Ling's blood was successfully changed. His eyes could see again, and his body had recovered. The Ringgu in Gong Suanxua's body was drawn out. She was slowly recovering during her recuperation period. Witnessing the happiness of the people around her, Chu Qingyan felt that the past half a year was the happiest time she had spent in this world since she transmigrated. She sat in the courtyard of the King of England's residence. Beside her were 2 identical cradles. The children in the cradles were delicate and cute. Her eyes were as gentle as water. Although they were born a month early, these 2 babies were not full-term babies at all. In fact, they were becoming rounder and cuter as they grew. She gently rocked the cradles and softly sang a nursery rhyme. The entire courtyard was silent, and the servants walked quietly, afraid that they would disturb the 2 young masters. Right at this moment, A lithe figure appeared in front of Chu Qingyan. She raised the corner of her lips. What brings our big Miss Tao here? Tao Tao was wearing a light purple dress. A belt embroidered with lotus flowers hugged her slim waist. The light muslin fluttered in the wind, making her look graceful and beautiful. The northwest wind. Tao Tao sat down and supported her chin with her hand. She looked a little tired. What's going on? Chu Qingyan looked at her amused. It's all because of that bastard. He said that if I don't agree, he'll cut off my rations. Now there's not a single restaurant in the capital that dares to do business with me. I can't even eat a mouthful of rice. Wah, Qingyan, please eat. As she spoke, she pitifully rubbed her shriveled belly, her eyes brimming with tears. Chu Qingyan was slightly surprised. She didn't expect Dongting to do such a thing. However, Tao Tao didn't seem to be angry. Instead, he seemed to be enjoying it. Chu Qingyan took it as a couple's fun. She waved her hand and asked someone to bring in several plates of delicious snacks. Chu Qingyan laughed as she looked at the person who was wolfing down the food. Eat slowly. No one is going to snatch it from you. I'm afraid that he'll come after me if I'm not full yet, Tao Tao mumbled. Back then, I thought you would agree, Chu Qingyan said with a smile as she rocked the cradle. Tao Tao recalled that day, his gentle embrace and his gentle voice. She blushed and coughed lightly. Am I the kind of person who would be seduced by beauty? You're too shallow. Moreover, didn't you tell me back then that it's easy for a woman to chase a man, and it's impossible for a man to chase a woman? In any case, I have to let him know that I'm not that easy to chase. If he gets me too easily, he won't know how to cherish me. Chu Qingyan smiled and raised her hand to poke her forehead. You're such a mischievous spirit. Tao Tao chuckled and wiped away the pastry crumbs at the corner of her mouth. Then she stood up and clapped her hands. She touched the faces of the two jade dolls and said reluctantly, I have to go now. Otherwise, that bastard will come after me. I'll come to see the babies later. With that, she left like a gust of wind, just like how she came. Chu Qingyan retracted her gaze and looked at a corner with a smile. She's already gone. Why aren't you coming out? TSK. People say that pregnancy makes a woman stupid for 3 years. Why doesn't it work when it comes to you? As the pleasant voice fell, an incomparably devilish figure walked out from behind the parasol tree. Because our IQs are highly different. Higashio Motetsu shrugged. I'm here to see the two babies. I think you have an ulterior motive. Chu Qingyan rolled her eyes at him. Hey. If you don't expose me, we're still good friends. Higashio Motetsu said this, but his eyes were filled with an unconcerned smile. You heard Tao Tao's words just now. Tell me what you think. Seeing Chu Qingyan's disdainful expression that said, Why are you so stupid? You chased her for a year and still couldn't win her heart. Higashio Motetsu's mouth twitched, but he quickly recovered his usual confidence. What can I think? I'll just continue chasing her. I've let her down for 3 years. Anyway, I still have a long way to go, so I'll compensate her. I hope I can attend your wedding banquet in my lifetime. Chu Qingyan teased. Higashio Motetsu rolled his eyes, got up and looked at the babies. He reached out and pinched their pink and tender cheeks, then turned and said, I'm going to chase that little heartless girl. I'll come to see you and the babies when I have time. With that, he disappeared like a gust of purple wind. Chu Qingyan tilted her head and laughed. The way these two people appeared and left the scene was becoming more and more similar. It seemed that the day of the wedding banquet was not far away. As she laughed, she felt that the aura in the air was a little different. Looking up, she saw the incomparably handsome figure leaning against the tree trunk. She didn't know how long he had been watching, but she burst into a flower-like smile. Are you done with your business? Xiao Su smiled and slowly walked towards her. Xian Mo's eyes were filled with her figure. And I came back to accompany you and the children. Xiao Su walked in front of her, leaned over and raised his hand to touch her face. His eyes were warm and gentle as they swept over her face inch by inch. He wanted to see if she had treated him well when he was not around. Chu Qingyan's face heated up from his gaze. She was shy and amused. They had only been separated for a morning, but why did this person seem to have been separated for 3 months every time? However, She liked the fun between husband and wife. She rubbed against his palm and said angrily, "You haven't looked at our babies since you came back. When the babies grow up, they will blame you for not loving them." Xiao raised his eyebrows at her words. "In my heart, you are the only baby." Chu Qingyan's face heated up even more. How did this person become a moving love machine? Xiao chuckled as the heat on his fingertips rose. "Why do you still blush so easily after so many years?" Chu Qingyan immediately glared at him. Who was the one who caused this? Xiao chuckled. He got up and looked at the sleeping twins. His eyes were filled with love. He replaced his little wife's position and gently rocked the two cradles. Chu Qingyan sat beside him, propping up her chin as she looked at him. His eyes were filled with starlight, and all the light was restrained. Only when he was facing her and the children would his eyes be filled with gentleness. He was still the same person whose face was bright and clear, like the white snow on the mountains. However, that coldness had been replaced by warmth. She was fascinated by him. Sensing her gaze, he looked at her sideways. "What's wrong?" "Big Ice Cube, I have a secret in my heart that I want to share with you. Do you want to hear it?" It was time to tell him the secret of her birth. Xiao's lips curled up. What a coincidence. I also have something to tell you. Chapter 1742. Under the parasol tree. The two cradles were taken away, leaving only two figures cuddling together and the sound of flowing water. "Big Ice Cube, this is my secret. My body belongs to this world, but my soul comes from another time and space. I know this sounds unbelievable, but it's true." She talked to herself. When she woke up in the dressing room, she became the 10-year-old girl from Mao Village. She didn't dare to look into his eyes, afraid that he would say that she had strange powers and was spouting nonsense. After all, these were like fairy tales to the ancient people. She had done a lot of mental preparation before she dared to tell him. However, how could the person she liked think that way? Xiao looked at the person who lowered her head and didn't dare to look at him. He couldn't help but hug her even more tightly. "Then will you suddenly disappear like that in the future?" "What?" Chu Qingyan looked up in confusion. "What I mean is you came here by accident. In the future, will you suddenly leave?" Xiao looked into her eyes and slowly pulled back his arms as he asked seriously. Although he looked calm, how could she not see the worry and panic hidden under his calmness after being together for so many years? You believe what I said?" Chu Qingyan widened her eyes. "As long as you say it, I believe it. Actually, I've had some doubts for a long time. You grew up in Mao Village and are only 10 years old. No matter how smart you are, it's impossible for you to have an exquisite heart." He paused and said, "You still haven't answered my question." Chu Qingyan was touched that he would believe her words. She looked at his persistent eyes and couldn't help but hug his neck and cling to his chest. "I don't know if I will leave, but I promise that as long as I'm alive, I won't leave you and the child." Xiao hugged her tightly. "As long as I'm alive, I won't let you leave." God let her come to his side and become his salvation. She was his and no one could take her away. "Yes." She nodded. The two of them hugged each other quietly for a while before Chu Qingyan remembered what he had just said. "Didn't you say that you have something to tell me?" She tilted her head and asked curiously. Xiao pecked her lips and smiled. "Do you still remember where we first met?" Chu Qingyan sank into her memories. "It was in the courtyard of the Chu clan. That was the first time I saw you. You looked very unapproachable. I was scared to death by you." Xiao pinched her nose and smiled. "I thought you were fearless, but you're wrong. That wasn't the first time we met." Chu Qingyan wanted to slap his hand away, but when she heard his words, she couldn't care less. She looked surprised. "We've met before?" Xiao nodded, his eyes sparkling. "Do you still remember the purple-masked man you saved in Mao Village?" Chu Qingyan widened her eyes. Xiao continued. "Eggplant, black firewood, scallion." When he said the first word, Chu Qingyan reacted. Her face was full of shock. "So that person was you." After saying that, she clenched her fists and hit him a few times. She complained. "Why didn't you say so earlier? I didn't expect us to meet so early. Also, why did you leave without saying goodbye at that time?" He accepted all of her complaints. When she was tired from hitting him, Xiao held her hand and laughed softly. I didn't know that you would become my little fiancé in the future. The situation was urgent, so I had to leave first. I didn't expect to see you again in the capital. Looks like my father has discerning eyes. He recognized you at first sight when he returned to the capital. Chu Qingyan stroked her chin and sighed. Father-in-law is very smart. Xiao nodded. It was really surprising that he recognized him at first sight. Chu Qingyan was silent for a while, then hugged him tightly. Big Ice Cube, I'm so lucky. I have you, the babies, my best friends, and my parents by my side. I have no regrets in this life. Xiao stroked her hair, hugged her, and looked at the cloudy sky with a smile. You're the lucky one in my life. Another day. People from Jiangnan came. Jin Ling and Yang Xiaohuan came to the King of England's residence, followed by boxes of account books. Back then, Chu Qingyan had started a business to leave a way out for her family's Big Ice Cube. After Big Ice Cube ascended the throne and she became empress, she handed over the business in her hands to Jin Ling and the others. Now, unknowingly, her business had opened all over the northern part of Jiangnan, in important cities and towns of various countries. It could be said that her wealth was comparable to that of a country. Chu Qingyan opened the latest account book, and her eyes were about to disappear from her smile. Her decision back then was really very wise. At this time, she closed the account book and looked at Jin Ling, who had removed his disguise and revealed his handsome face. Then, she looked at Yang Xiaohuan, who was already a beautiful woman. She was even more satisfied. Back then, Big Ice Cube had already told her the reason why Jin Ling had disguised himself as a bearded uncle. Jin Ling was worried that he was too young and would be looked down upon for doing business, so he put an effort to disguise himself. In fact, he was only a teenager. Now that he had become a handsome young man, it was time to talk about marriage. This time, Jin Ling came to the capital. Other than to report, there was another matter, and that was to ask her for Yang Xiaohuan. Yang Xiaohuan was saved by her and was very dependent on her. Not only did she treat her as a benefactor, but she also treated her as a teacher and a friend. Now that Yang Xiaohuan had broken ties with the Yang family, she was the only person she could trust. Chu Qingyan looked at the golden couple in front of her, rubbed her chin, and waved her hand. Approved. Jin Ling took Yang Xiaohuan's hand and bowed to thank her. Chu Qingyan's eyes curved. There was another happy event this year. Master, His Majesty is preparing to hold the little prince's 1-month-old banquet tomorrow. Jasper stood beside her and reported. Chu Qingyan smiled and nodded. Got it. Go to the storeroom and pick a few gifts. Tomorrow, Lord and I will bring them together. Nkong hopped over and lay on her knee. He said innocently, Mother, baby also wants to see the new little brother. Chu Qingyan stroked his head and smiled lovingly. Okay, let's go tomorrow as a family. The new emperor did not advocate extravagance and waste, so this 1-month-old banquet was just a family banquet for family and friends. Chu Qingyan hugged little Lucky and teased him with Gongsun Shui. Children are so cute. After half a year of recuperation, Gongsun Shui's face was no longer so pale and had a bit of color. At this time, she looked at the child without blinking and smiled sincerely. Peng Zhijing came over and heard her words. She smiled and teased. When you're well, you can give birth to one yourself. Your one probably can't wait. Chu Qingyan nodded in agreement. Gongsun Shui's face was red from the teasing. Xiao sipped his tea and looked at the cozy room with a smile on his face. Xiao Ho retracted his gaze from his little rascal and looked at Xiao Yao with a smile that was not a smile. Second brother, let's discuss something. Xiao Yao felt a chill run down his spine. Tonight, he had a bad feeling lingering in his heart. Tonight wouldn't be a hangmen banquet, right? Chapter 1743. Third brother, you, what do you want to discuss? Xiao Yao swallowed his saliva. He didn't know if he was overthinking it, but he felt that the person in front of him was smiling with ill intentions. Xiao Su held his teacup, his eyes deep as he watched from the sidelines. Xiao Ho smiled faintly. Second brother, don't be nervous. Fuck, you're making me even more nervous. Xiao Ho continued. I heard that my future second sister-in-law's body hasn't fully recovered yet? Although he was vigilant when he heard about the ice beauty, Xiao couldn't help but interject. That's right. Although Miss Tao's medical skills are brilliant and managed to draw out the goo poison, because it was brought out from the mother's womb, the damage to her body is too heavy. It will take at least a year and a half to nurse her body back to health. Speaking until here, Xiao gritted his teeth. If he knew about this earlier, he would have turned Suyu into ashes. Xiao already knew about this matter, but he threw out a brick to attract more jade. Then she should need a lot of good herbs to nurse her body back to health, right? Xiao sighed. That's right. Some herbs are too hard to find, like the shepherd's purse grass last month. I had to search all over Jiangnan to find it, and, speaking of herbs, Xiao forgot about his precautions and started to complain incessantly. If it wasn't for the fact that these herbs were too hard to find, his ice beauty would be able to recover even faster. Xiao acted as if he had experienced it before. That's right. Back then, in order to nurse Jing's body back to health, I also spent a lot of effort. The feeling of being in the same boat made Xiao pat his third brother's shoulder. It's been hard on you. Xiao watched as his prey walked into his trap step by step. The corner of his mouth slowly rose. Back then, I was also very anxious like you. But eldest brother pointed out a bright path for me. What bright path? Third brother, quickly tell me. Xiao's interest was immediately piqued. Not far away, Xiao Su looked at the situation and shook his head with a chuckle. History was about to repeat itself. Second brother, you also know that my favorite thing to do in my early years was to collect medicinal herbs. Now that I'm on the throne, other than money, the national treasury is filled with rare medicinal herbs. Hearing his third brother's words, although Xiao was excited, his intelligence was still online. He looked at the person in front of him suspiciously. So, he didn't believe that his third brother had said so much just to hand over the medicine storehouse to him. I have the herbs you want here, but there is no free lunch in this world, Xiao said with a smile. Third brother, why do I feel like you're like a wolf trying to coax a child? Third brother's medicine storehouse contained almost all the rare flowers and herbs in the world, which made him very excited. Although he felt that there was already a trap in front of him, he couldn't help but ask, what exactly do you want to discuss with me? Or should I say, what are you up to? He was a carefree king who had nothing to do at home. It seemed like there was nothing for his younger brother to rob him of. Xiao finally revealed a sly smile. Our Xiao family is like brothers, don't be so formal. I just want to give you a medicine storehouse. Xiao didn't have time to be happy before he heard him say again. Along with Sichuan's great country. Xiao's mouth twitched. Was he still sleepy and confused? However, reality was cruel. Xiao mercilessly shattered his self-deceiving hints. How about it? You're giving me a gift. Isn't your younger brother very good? I also feel that there is no other brother in the world who is as kind-hearted and generous as me. Heavens, kind-hearted my ass. Generous my ass. Xiao gritted his teeth in his heart. When he was tricked by his eldest brother, he didn't dare to resist. Now he was tricking him. Kind people are always bullied. Xiao didn't give him a chance to speak and continued. Since you're not saying anything, I'll take it that you agree. I've already written the abdication edict. You can ascend the throne tomorrow. After saying that, Xiao stroked his chin and evaluated himself. I'm almost moved by my own righteousness. After saying that, he turned and left, not giving Xiao a chance to regret. Pang Jijing felt a pair of hands around her waist. She laughed and said, what good thing happened? Although she couldn't see his expression, she could feel the joy exuding from his body even with her eyes closed. Wife, I've thrown the hot potato away. I'll take you wherever you want to go. Xiao sniffed the fragrance in her hair and smiled uncomfortably. On the other side, Xiao hugged his ice beauty and cried, Wife, I've been tricked. I have to give up land and pay compensation. From now on, I've lost my freedom. What should I do? Gongsun Shui frowned. Speak human. Oh. Xiao released his hands and tidied his clothes. He smiled widely. Wife, from tomorrow onwards, I'm the emperor and you're the empress. Are you happy? Gongsun Shui glared at him coldly. Scram. Xiao Yao's face fell and he continued to hug his ice beauty. I don't want to either. Third brother is too cunning. He actually used the medicine storehouse to threaten me. What can I do? Don't abandon me. Otherwise, I'll be all alone. Gongsun Shui face-bombed. Didn't she say that she would be wherever he was? What was there to worry about? She really didn't want to bother with this fool. Under the long corridor of the palace, the lights were bright and the ground was full of shadows. The shadows of the trees were mixed with the shadows of birds flying past. The bustling and noisy hall was left in the hall. It was quiet outside, but one could vaguely hear wine and music inside. Xiao Su stood under the lantern for a while. Then he heard footsteps approaching. You're here, he said indifferently. Xiao Ho walked to a pillar not far from him. He rolled up his sleeves and casually leaned against it. He didn't have the majesty of an emperor at all. I have a question. Ask away. Why didn't you stop me from giving the empire to second brother? Actually, when he saw him, he already had the answer in his heart. But since he had already come out, he might as well ask. The dark glazed light reflected in those black eyes. The owner of those eyes raised his eyebrows and smiled faintly. Haven't you already guessed it? Xiao Ho rubbed his nose and laughed. If second brother knew that you wanted to give the empire to him long ago, and that I was only temporarily managing it for a few years, he would probably vomit blood. Xiao Su imagined it and couldn't help but laugh. He had spent too many years on the battlefield. If the country was in a state of war, he would be able to shoulder the burden. But now, it was a time of peace. He was suitable for conquering the empire, but not for guarding it. On the other hand, third brother was extremely intelligent, resourceful, and skilled in politics. If it was before Pang Zhijing's appearance, he would be extremely suitable to be a wise ruler. Unfortunately, with a beauty by his side now, he no longer had such thoughts. Second younger brother, on the other hand, spent most of his time among the common people. He was able to chat and laugh with hundreds of officials, and mix with people from all walks of life. He was broad-minded and possessed a benevolent heart. No one understood the people's livelihood better than him. So he was the most suitable person to sit on the throne. He will be a virtuous emperor, Xiao Su said. Xiao Ho didn't comment. Before he left, he asked, when are you leaving? Tomorrow. Okay, see you tomorrow. The next day, the Sichuan Empire, which had been peaceful for a few years, was stirred up again. The reason was that they had a new emperor. The officials thought, my heart is bitter, but I won't say it. Xiao Yao clenched the news sent by the spy and gritted his teeth. Bastards, all of them ran away. After the morning court, Xiao Yao hugged Ice Beauty and cried. Wife, those heartless people have all left. I only have you left. Ah, Ice Beauty. Go and read the memorials. Chapter 1744. A month ago, Yan Zhan and his wife came to Lan Manor together with Jing Huai and her husband, who were warmly welcomed by Sima Jun and Ji Linyang. However, for Chu Qingyan, Pang Zhijing and Sima Jun, this meeting was earth-shattering. It started because of the hot spring incident. It was unknown who blurted it out, but it caused the three of them to start talking to each other one after another. Chu Qingyan asked, have you been to the 2008 Olympics? Pang Zhijing said, I was there too. I even went to cheer for the Olympic athletes. Sima Jun said, it's a pity that I didn't see the 2016 Olympics. After they finished talking about the modern era, the three of them were silent for a while, and then they hugged each other tacitly. We're all in the same boat. Why do we have to know each other when we meet? I thought I was the only one who transmigrated. Sima Jun coughed and looked at Chu Qingyan guiltily. Actually, I recognized you a long time ago. However, I saw that you were doing well, and that you had someone by your side. I didn't want to acknowledge you, afraid that I would disturb your life. Chu Qingyan held her hand and smiled. It's okay. It's good that we acknowledge each other now. Pang Zhijing leaned against the edge of the pool and looked at the two of them. She rolled her eyes and said, do you think there are other transmigrators besides us? Sima Jun brushed her wet hair. It's hard to say. After all, transmigrating isn't a rare thing these days. Chu Qingyan nodded. There's no threshold for transmigrating now. There are all kinds of people, and it's hard to tell if they're good or bad. Let's not reveal our identities. Pang Zhijing agreed. By the way, have you thought about why we transmigrated here? Sima Jun raised her eyebrows and smiled. It must be so that I can show off in this alternate world. Chu Qingyan tilted her head. To find happiness. If Xiaosu was here, the answer would be, she's here to save me. Pang Zhijing rested her chin on her hand and smiled. Then I should be here to save the world. Why am I so noble? Thinking back to their experiences over the past few years and the current peace and prosperity, the three of them couldn't help but smile. The hot spring next door was not as lively as theirs. On the contrary, it was a little cold. At this moment, hearing their unrestrained laughter and high spirits, the three handsome men raised their eyebrows at the same time. What's so funny? Soon they knew the reason. This was because their wives were no longer circling around them. Instead, they had gathered together and were fiddling with something mysteriously. Finally, one day, Xiaosu and the other two couldn't take it anymore and were prepared to capture them. He walked to the door and heard voices inside. Chu Qingyan said, I remember that I transmigrated here after taking a nap. Sleeping probably won't work. Pang Zhijing said something and Sima Jun said, I fell into the water and was sucked here by the whirlpool. Maybe I can go back if I jump into the water again. Xiaosu, Xiaoho, and Ji Linyang's faces were extremely dark. They already knew about their wives' backgrounds. Now that they heard them discussing how to go back, their hearts were in turmoil. The three of them looked at each other and pushed the door open to capture them. Then, the three of them had a tacit understanding and didn't let the three women be alone together. As a result, every time the three of them became 6 people, they were very sad. Who told these stinky men to misunderstand them and not listen to their explanations? Even if they had evil intentions, they didn't have the guts. They couldn't go back and they weren't even allowed to discuss it. Freedom of speech now. Who said that only women and villains were hard to raise in this world? It was clearly the stingy ones. Men were hard to raise. The cavalry masters of the fierce cavalry all found happiness and had a positive outcome with the people they loved. Jin Ling and Yang Xiaohuan were husband and wife. They guarded Jiangnan and other businesses for their little princess consort. Mu Ling used the wooden carving in his hand to obtain a beauty's heart. From then on, he lived a happy and peaceful life. After Feng Ling's body recovered, he took charge of the fierce cavalry again. After marrying Water Spirit, they had a son and a daughter. It could be said that he had a great harvest in his career and love. Hu Ling and Jasper fell in love after a long time and had a positive outcome. Ethereal and Cheng Yanlua were a pair of enemies. After going through so many hardships, they wouldn't be separated so easily. They gave birth to one future little divine doctor after another. When everyone was happy, there was only one person who was often alone and silent to the moon. That was Turin. Many people wanted to introduce him to someone, but he rejected them all. He already had someone in his heart. He knew that the beauty was gone and he couldn't wait anymore. He stubbornly waited. There was no chance in this life, but there was still the next life. That woman with bright eyes, he couldn't forget her no matter what. The flowing water fell, and the spring left. Year after year, day after day, the heavens on earth. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. The Sichuan Imperial Palace became lively again. In the Imperial Garden, there were more than a dozen children sitting cross-legged. There were boys and girls, and they were all dressed differently. However, they all had one thing in common, which was that they were all handsome and pretty. Although they were still young, it was easy to predict that in a few years' time, this group of beautiful children would grow up to become adults. When they went out, they would bring disaster to the world. The one wearing a black brocade robe was Xiao Huichen. He was the eldest son of Xiaosu and Chu Qingyan. He was dressed in noble clothes, like a smaller version of Xiaosu. On his left sat his twin brothers and sisters. One was called Xiao Huixing, and the other was called Xiao Huiyue. On his right sat his youngest brother Xiao Huiyan. Sitting across from Xiao Huichen was Xiao Yuhan. On her left sat her 2 younger brothers. One was called Xiao Yurong, and the other was called Xiao Yimu. On the west sat Xiao Yao's eldest son Xiao Ziyun. He was dressed in a bright yellow imperial robe. His small face was smiling like his father. Oh yes, 3 years ago his father gave up the throne with him. At a young age, he had to drag the civil and military officials to live in a well-off society. He often lamented to the moon and felt sorry for himself. At this time, Xiao Ziyun had 3 younger brothers and sisters sitting in a row. They were the second brother Xiao Zijuan, the third sister Xiao Zifu, and the fourth sister Xiao Zirong. Originally, the imperial palace was not so lively except for the new year. However, because the retired emperor was going to celebrate his 80th birthday, everyone came back from thousands of miles away. Xiao Ziyun turned the dice in his hand and glanced at the people present. Old rules, 1 game to decide the winner. Xiao Huichen crossed his shoulders and raised his eyebrows. Although he didn't want to play this kind of game with his younger brother, he had already promised before. It was not good to go back on his word. He looked at his 2 younger brothers sitting beside him and reluctantly nodded. Xiao Huixing and Xiao Huiyan saw that their eldest brother had agreed and also nodded. Xiao Ziyan looked at the other 2. Xiao Yurong and Xiao Yimu looked at each other and nodded. Well, whoever shakes out a small point loses. Xiao Ziyan smiled maliciously. Everyone nodded. Xiao Yuhan and the other younger sisters rolled their eyes. Last year they competed in archery. Last year they competed in rock, paper, scissors. This year they played dice. They were really getting worse and worse. However, they were still very curious about who would win this year. Half an hour later, Xiao Yumu raised his hand to cover his face. Damn, how could he be so unlucky? He had shaken out 3 dots. Xiao Huichen stood up and left with his 3 younger brothers and sisters. Xiao Yuhan shook his head angrily. Xiao Ziyun laughed, took off his dragon robe and dragon crown and put it beside Xiao Yimu. He patted him on the shoulder like an old man. In the future, the Sichuan Empire will be handed over to you. It's a long road and a long way to go. After that, Xiao Ziyun and his 3 younger brothers and sisters looked up to the sky and laughed and left. Xiao Yurong looked at her younger brother with some schadenfreude. I seem to have seen Brother Ziyun cheat. Xiao Yimu hugged the dragon robe and looked in the direction where there was no smoke. He gritted his teeth. Xiao, Zi, Yin, you, this, you, soul, light. And this kind of game would be played every few years. And there were all kinds of tricks. You've taken a fancy to my sword? Simple, you'll be the emperor for me. Not to mention this sword, I'll give you the entire armory. Oh, you owe my family money? Simple, you'll be in charge of the country for me, and the debt will be written off. And the so-called sword, the debt, how many people were planning it? Year after year, it was no longer strange to see a battle of wits and bravery. So the daily life of the royal brothers was like this. When others met, they would usually ask, have you eaten? They would ask, have you become the emperor this year? And as the civil and military officials of this generation of Sichuan Empire, they were the most miserable officials in history. They were used to seeing the person on the dragon throne look different every time they went to court. It could be said that the officials were made of iron, and the emperor was flowing water. So much so that no one dared to put their daughter into the harem, for fear that she would become the Grand Imperial Concubine or Grand Imperial Concubine. The entire imperial court was rarely harmonious, because every new emperor had different methods, which made the officials suffer. You might not believe it, but I've already been a senior official for 4 dynasties. You might not believe it, but I've already been a senior official for 6 dynasties. Oh, it seemed that being a senior official for a few dynasties was not worth much anymore. They had better do their jobs properly. Chapter 1745. If we had never met, where would I be? The phone rang again and again, tirelessly thinking about it. A smooth and delicate arm reached out from under the blanket, picked up the phone, and shrank back in. A few minutes later, the blanket was suddenly lifted. A pure and beautiful girl rubbed her hair and sat up. Yes, I'm Chu Yan. You said the photo was done, right? Okay, I'll go get it in the afternoon. Chu Yan put down her phone and stretched. She happened to be facing the full-body mirror on the wall, her face lacking sleep. Ever since she slept in the photo studio last week, she felt as if she had lived a lifetime. She had a very long dream, but when she thought about it carefully, she couldn't remember it. She patted her face, then got out of bed, put on her shoes, and walked to the wardrobe. She had taken her parents to take a set of artistic photos, and now the shop owner had asked her to go over and get the photos. Fortunately, she was already a senior and had plenty of time. After changing her clothes, she walked to the door and went back to her room to get the resume on the table. She had an interview this afternoon, which happened to be 2 streets away from the photo studio. She went there in advance to prepare. She quickly got the photo. Chu Yan was very satisfied when she saw herself wearing ancient clothes. Even the shop assistant praised her for being born to wear such clothes. She touched her face. If she lived in ancient times, what kind of life would she have had? She glanced at the time on her watch and immediately put away her things. She said goodbye to the shop assistant and walked towards the interview location. The company she was going to interview this time was the city's leading design company, and also the nationally famous Xiao Group's golden signboard. It was said that the person in charge of it was the eldest son of the Xiao family, a famous golden bachelor. It was said that he was handsome and rich, and he had 7 outstanding assistants under him. They were called Wind Spirit, Gold Spirit, Wood Spirit, Water Spirit, Fire Spirit, Turin, and Ethereal. Chu Yan rarely paid attention to such gossip. She just felt that the name of this assistant was so strange that it felt like an ancient assassin. The interview was on the 12th floor. Chu Yan explained her identity to the security guard and quickly walked towards the elevator door. Because she received a text message at the last minute, the interview time was half an hour earlier. Seeing that she was about to be late, Chu Yan was miserable and could only run over with her bag. Coincidentally, a group of people was walking over from the side. She didn't notice them and bumped into the leader of the group. The document in her hand fell to the ground with a paw sound. Chu Yan was unable to stand steadily, and when she thought that she would end up in the same state as the document, her wrist was tightly gripped by someone. That scorching heat penetrated her skin and reached her heart. She couldn't help but be dumbfounded, and at this moment, she was also pulled back by the other party. She came back to her senses and wanted to thank him after she steadied herself, but when she looked up, she was stunned. The man in front of him had handsome brows and slender eyes. He looked around with a natural elegance and a cold temperament. His eyes were like the richest wine in the world. Just a glance was enough to make one intoxicated. She couldn't find words to describe the man in front of her. His appearance was enough to turn all living things upside down. In her lifetime, she had actually been mesmerized by a strange man. Xiao Su looked at the girl in front of him. Her facial features were exquisite, her eyebrows were bright, and her cheeks were healthy pink. She was wearing a simple suit, but it outlined her exquisite figure. Her black hair was tied up high, and she looked bright and lively. His gaze was locked on her. "Have I seen you somewhere before?" In his dreams at night, that frown and smile always lingered in front of his eyes. In the interview office on the 12th floor, Turin looked at his watch and couldn't help but feel strange. Didn't the boss say that he was already downstairs? Why wasn't he here yet? He thought for a moment and said to the 2 interviewers beside him, "Fengling, Hualing, let's start first. We'll report to the boss when he arrives." The company was recruiting elites this time, which was why they were mobilized. Even the boss was personally participating, so there couldn't be any mistakes. Fengling and Hualing didn't have any objections, so Turin signaled to his subordinates. Soon an interviewer pushed the door open and came in. "Hello 3 interviewers. My name is Huang Yi." This voice that sounded like a yellow oriole crashed into Turin's ears. He couldn't help but look up, and a girl with bright eyes barged into his eyes. "If I can't wait for you in this life, I'll wait for the next life. Finally, I've waited for you." That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.